The heavy iron doors of the minimum security facility didn't creak when they opened. They hummed with the sound of precision engineering. 18 months had passed since the night of the lighthouse. 547 days of scrubbing floors, reading law books, and breathing air that didn't smell of incense or expensive perfume. Dominic Toretto Corleone walked out into the crisp autumn morning wearing a simple denim jacket and carrying a single duffel bag. He was no longer a titan, no longer a king, and certainly no longer the man who had traded his soul for a mistress's smile. The satisfying conclusion to his journey wasn't marked by a waiting limousine or a throng of reporters. The media had moved on to the next scandal long ago. Instead, the gravel path led to a single modest silver sedan parked under a row of changing maples. Leaning against the hood, watching the falling leaves with a peaceful intensity, was Elisa. She looked different. The Ice Queen armor had melted, replaced by a soft, resilient warmth. And in her arms, wrapped in a blanket the color of a summer sky, was the reason Dominic had survived the isolation of his cell. "He has your eyes," Elisa said as Dominic approached, her voice steady and full of a quiet, earned grace. "But I think he has my temper. He doesn't like to be told no." Dominic stopped a few feet away, his heart performing a frantic, joyful dance against his ribs. He looked at the child, his son, and felt a wave of fulfillment so potent it made his knees weak. The victory wasn't a bank balance, it was this. The chance to be a father who didn't have to hide the truth from his children. "Can I?" Dominic asked, his voice thick with emotion. Elisa nodded, stepping forward to close the gap he had created years ago. As he took the sleeping boy into his arms, the weight felt like the only thing in the world that mattered. The reunion was complete not because they were back in a mansion, but because they were finally on the same side of the truth. "I sold the estate," Elisa said softly as they walked toward the car. "Every penny went into a trust for the families affected by the Foundation's collapse. The rest went to the legal defense of the whistleblowers you and Arthur tried to silence. We have nothing left of the old life, Dom. Just the name." "The name is enough," Dominic replied, looking at her with a love that had been forged in the fire of his own destruction. "Actually, it's more than enough. It's a clean slate." The satisfying twist of their ending was the revelation of their new path. They weren't heading to a penthouse in the city. They were driving north to a small coastal town where Elisa had opened a pro bono legal clinic and Dominic had a job waiting at a local shipyard. Not as an owner but as a foreman. He was going back to the docks, back to the honest labor that had birthed the spark Elisa first fell in love with. As the car pulled away from the prison gates, the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the road in a golden, hopeful light. The romantic subplot had found its ultimate resolution, not in a grand gesture of wealth, but in a quiet promise of partnership. They had weathered the storm, faced the reckoning, and come out the other side as people they could finally respect. "Are you ready for a quiet life, Dominic?" Elisa asked, reaching across the console to take his hand. Her touch was warm, a grounding force after months of cold concrete. Dominic looked at his sleeping son, then at the woman who had saved him by destroying him. He squeezed her hand, a sense of peace settling over him that he hadn't felt in 40 years. "I've spent my whole life trying to be loud," Dominic whispered, a small, genuine smile tugging at his lips. "I think I'm finally ready to listen." The car disappeared into the horizon, leaving the shadows of the past behind. The reckoning was over. The redemption had begun. And for the first time the story ended exactly as it was meant to. With love, with truth, and with the promise of a future where the only thing that disappeared was the pain of who they used to be.